No sabe bien cuánto te quiero yo. Tú no sabes bien cuánto te quiero. No, 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 no te va. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You got all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than.
Every Sunday morning, the sun shines bright. Grab your favorite mug, let's take flight. With the Coffee Time podcast, we gather around, talking about Colombia, where love is found. Expats share their stories, dreams unfold. In this coffee triangle, adventures bold. Oh, coffee time, bring us together. With laughter and love, we'll face any weather. From the mountains high to the valleys wide, in this coffee hug, we find our pride. From Medellin to Cali, Cartagena's shores, exploring this country, we open new doors. Tips and tales shared, we laugh and we learn.
Good morning and welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live here in Armenia, Colombia. Juka, greetings from Finland. How you doing? Dan the Expat, good morning from Armenia, Colombia. Mr. Grand Colombia himself, spitting out 4 coffee cups. B-Nick, how you doing, B-Nick? Buen dia, how you doing? Turtle, good morning. Crosa, 1974. Greetings from Tampa Bay, back in Florida after enjoying some time in Cordoba, checking their festivities, celebrating 113 years as a municipal. Cool. Awesome. Lots of anniversaries and vacations and cool stuff going on. Today in Calarca, there's things happening. And Renee, welcome from Tropical NATO headquarters. How are you? Owen, good morning. Mr. Owen. Okay, temperature 75 degrees. Going to have a high of 79 and a low of 62. Don't put money on it, but that's what it says. And our Colombian peso is 40.94 to the dollar. Eked up a few centavos. So that's cool. All right. Today, I got a couple bummer announcements, and then I got some news, and then I don't know where this topic came from. Well, I do, but there was like a trail that led me to it, and so we're gonna talk about why go to Italy when you could go to the coffee region, or go to Italy. All right, so let's get to the bummer stuff. All right, first of all, when it comes to videos, I've had a big setback. I had my 2 cameras that I use when I go out in my camera bag in my car, and I think I must have left my car unlocked, and they vanished. They disappeared. Not going to cry, but my only camera is my cell phone again, right where I began. And so a lot of those little things that I was able to do, like sneak into places that don't permit cameras, or to walk while holding a camera, I can't do those things again. But that's how it goes. I mean, that's what happens. I thought my car automatically locked. Now, I hit the key fob when I leave, but apparently one time I didn't. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I know I left it in the car for a particular reason, because I had a lot of stuff to carry, coffee bags and things like that. and I was going to be using the camera in a few days. So I figured, well, I'll just lock it in the car. And it wasn't even like sitting on a seat obvious, but it's gone. So whatever happened, that's what happened. So that sucks. And now the biggie. That's not a biggie. I mean, it's a biggie, but it's not. Last week when I was doing this, towards the end, excuse me, I was getting some messages over and over and over again. I even stopped and interrupted a couple times because they were kind of sketchy. It turns out what happened was Sharik and her mother were beaten and robbed. Now, she was messaging me after the fact, and she was already with the police. She was at the police station. But it was pretty tragic, so I'll quickly tell the story. I'm not going to show you a picture of her. She sent me a couple, but she's very embarrassed over it. Her mother's been in the hospital for the last 5 days. She didn't go to the hospital for a day or two, but the swelling turned into some trapped blood behind her eyes, and it became quite serious. And so they took her to the hospital, and she's been in there. So this happened in Cauca. If you look at this map, this is a chunk of Colombia. The red line at the bottom is the border to Ecuador. The first oval circle is Armenia at the top. The next one down, that's Cali. And then you got that purple border line that surrounds Cauca. And that's a place that's pretty much of its own. It's the criminals and the FARC and the guerrillas, and that's where they hold up. And it's where all the bad stuff happens. Well, there's 3 main zones in Colombia. This is a bad one because they control that entire territory. She moved from there. She was not supposed to go back, but I told you that she had that coffee contract with Turkey, and she went back. Her coffee comes from Cauca. There's some very good coffee there, and it's always good price because they can't conduct a lot of business there because of what goes on. Well, she's trying to help those farmers out, so she decided to go back and handle it firsthand because it was a big order and it was very important. So, contrary to whatever my advice is worth, I gave her 2 other options, but she's very stubborn and she was going to go do it. So she went to the house that she owns with about 10 million pesos worth of coffee, I believe, from the farmer. On the market, considerably more, 30, I believe. So she went there, and her mother were preparing it. They were only planning on being there for a couple hours. They're using that space to prepare it. Well, it was being watched. I believe she is watched, which is one of the reasons she's not supposed to go back. And a group of men broke in and beat them to a pulp. She's from head to foot bruises. And like I say, her mother's in the hospital. They stole the down payment for the contract, 10 million pesos. They stole all the coffee. And it turns out that's a thing they're doing right now. Let me show you. This has happened a number of times just this month. But here's one example. This is a story about a farmer. Whenever somebody is killed, they put the pictures in black and white. He owns a farm. There were a number of people on this farm, him, his family, workers. 10 men, armed men, came in, held him at gunpoint, killed him, stole their entire coffee harvest. This is something that's been, like I say, has been going on this month. And they saw her. It wasn't on the farm, but they probably trailed her from the farm, and so that's what happened. So she got police protection, and she got out of Calca. But she's under contract with this coffee, so she can't say, "Well, I got robbed." It's a serious thing. So she convinced some of the coffee growers to front her some coffee, and she's arranged with some family members to prepare the coffee and take it to the port in Buenaventura, at which point they'll be able to collect the other half. And with that, she can reimburse for the coffee that got fronted to her. She'll end up walking away with taxi fare on this contract that was huge. While they were there at the house, they went through and stole everything that wasn't nailed down on top of that. Just add insult to injury. So that's been fun this week. I believe that today her mother's getting released from the hospital. I'll find out this afternoon. And then as soon as her mother gets released, they're both heading here so that she can take care of her mother, keep an eye on her until she's healed, and then she'll return, and she will stay here and probably won't set foot in Calca again. Like, it's not the right time to say I told you so. All right, so there's that. It's horrible, but things happen. And the lesson for you to take away from that is don't do things or go places that you know you shouldn't be, because what could happen might happen. She knew better than to go, but she went. Don't do that. If you know not to get drunk and go alone, walk in the streets at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, then don't do that. Things like that. It's one of the most dangerous places there is there in a country where areas like this are about as peaceful as it comes. We get crime here and there, bits and pieces, but nothing like that. I mean, that's like Mogadishu. All right. Yeah, even the military, they don't like to go in there. So now we're going to talk about some news. Let me take a look at the chat. Oh, let's see. Owen, good morning from Vancouver. How are you doing? Owen, that sucks. It sucks mucho. Yeah, it's terrible. All right. Sorry about your voice. I don't know why. I kind of know it. I don't talk a lot. I don't get to speak English, and I don't have much conversation, particularly this week. I spent almost the entire week, except for a doctor's appointment, alone, not talking. And if you don't exercise your voice, you get gravelly, I guess. All right, so the news. Our first one here is a bit of good news. 6 stolen motorcycles recovered in Armenia, thanks to Citizens Alert. People here in general are being extremely active, reporting everything that they see, anything that they think is going on, because they don't want this to become a place where crime can settle in. A foreign minor was arrested. It was a Venezuelan kid. He was 17 years old. They have juvie laws, but the nice thing is that the 6 motorcycles he stole, they recovered every one of them. It was kind of a fluke because he's been stealing these for a while, and somebody just alerted the police to something doesn't seem right. It wasn't really in the story. as to what. I'm very curious as to what in particular they noticed, but they noticed, and so they caught him. He's sitting in jail right now, waiting for court, and got the motorcycles. All right, next one. This is interesting. Final stretch, Armenia to open internationally standard aquatic complex. This is supposed to open Monday. This has several Olympic-sized pools, several half Olympic-sized pools, and a whole bunch of other features to it. I'm not sure. It hasn't been open to the public. Like I say, it's not open Monday. It's completed Monday, and then I think the week after, or maybe it's the 14th, somewhere around there, it will open to the public. But this is the biggest one in Colombia. This will be the Olympic Training Center, and every other international and national swimming aquatic event will take place here in Armenia. They've sunk a ton of money in this. It's right next to the football stadium in the south part of Armenia. And they've been working on this for a couple years. They've sunk a ton of money into it. And of course, rightfully so, they're very proud of it. So that's very cool. And the last news article I have here, it was kind of humorous. It won't translate, but a teenager found her father with another woman in this car. She exploded with rage, smashed his car in the middle of the street. Now, I got a video clip here. Sadly, it was at the tail end. She began with a motorcycle helmet. She went around the car, putting dents in it, smashing things. She couldn't break a window with it, so she found a big rock, and that's where this video comes in. I don't know if you can understand, but they're egging her on. The crowd is on her side and against the cheater. Armenia can be quite entertaining. All right. Fiesta, yeah. The traffic stopped, people surrounding the car. Everybody was enjoying the moment, well, except for her father and whatever concubine was in the car with him. Not sure about that. The news story was kind of interesting, because they write these news stories with a serious tone. but you know what they were writing was actually, it was pretty funny. All right. So anything in chat? We'll get on with our topic. How are we doing for time? We're moving right along. All right, this topic won't take too long. Let me start off by showing you a few pictures. This is partly what got me go. I read something about there's no place like Tuscany, and that's Italy's similar to the Coffee Triangle, and that just got me thinking. And so let me show you some pictures here. All right, this is Salento. And one of the streets in Salento, traditional houses, there's other, if you go to any traditional pueblo, any small town like like Hardin, any number of them, you'll see these colorful paint treatments on the houses. This is in Tuscany. Now they do it in a different way. Here you see in Salento, they use the white paint and the colorful trim, and that's fairly typical, maybe more tasteful. But in Tuscany, this is what they do. You got pink houses and blue houses and yellow houses, and the trim is white. And here we got Salento again, a different street. Quite beautiful, actually. I used to think colors like that were gaudy, but I've grown to really appreciate it, the way this is done. And here's Tuscany, another street in Tuscany, and that seems a little gaudy to me, or at least some of the color choices like pea soup green. However, it's the same theme. They're colorful. And here we got a picture of Tuscany. Yeah, I messed up here. I had a different picture, but I loaded. Well, we've still got rolling hills, mountains. This is here in Colombia. Those are the Andes Mountains. And here are the Italian Alps. So a lot of similarities. But it's not just that. Is Colombia becoming the new Italy? Now, I know that sounds a little crazy, but hear me out. We've got the mountains, we got the romance, we got the incredible coffee. Coffee time exotics. And honestly, life here has that same slow, beautiful vibe people love about Italy, or so I'm told. However, we don't have the price tag of it. We're living a much, cheaper life here. So we're going to talk about food, culture, lifestyle, and why more and more people are starting to fall in love with this place, just like they do with Tuscany. So let me get a sip of my faux coffee. And we'll start, not Alps. Yes, it was the Alps. Absolutely was the Alps. It was the Italian Alps. Why do you think it's not the Alps? Steps up that hill at the end of the street are no joke. Salento is a nice town. I've done those steps twice. I won't ever do them again. Why? Okay. So why is Italy feeling special, and how am I comparing Colombia to that? When people think of Italy, they think of the charm, the history, the art, the amazing food, and those picture-perfect landscapes. But here in Colombia, here in the coffee region, we got that same type of thing. You got colonial towns that look like they belong on a postcard. As a matter of fact, they put them on postcards. We've got the rolling green hills and the winding roads. We got the sunshine. We got the cafe tables sitting out in the street. Now, of course, it's not the same, but we have a particular type of magic for people that come here. And for a lot of people, I don't know, scratches the same itch. It fulfills that same thing. And one of those things is the pace of life. Here in the coffee region, the mornings are kind of slow. People get up when they get up. People take the time to enjoy their coffee. They're not rushing around. Like in the U.S., you rush out the door with a paper cup of coffee and drink it in the car, and it's just not like that. The cafe or coffee culture here is real. It's not a trend or trendy overpriced type of thing that, you're probably used to, but it's really, it's sit down and talk to your neighbor. Now, when I was doing those coffee meetings, that was the point. We just kind of get together and chat, have a coffee, get to know different cafes. Excuse me. Of course, we all know I've been banned from my coffee meetings, but that's the point behind it, because that's what we have here. So you get to relax and take a deep breath, and when you walk around here, people are friendly. If you know them, they're going to wave at you, and even if you don't, they're going to be helpful if you're looking confused. I've told you stories in the past. I could go on forever telling stories about how people are friendly. They ask how you're doing, and they actually wait to hear the answer. They actually listen. It's a very human thing. And unfortunately, it's kind of rare. They have that in Italy. Italy is known for that. It's famous for that. You go to a sit down at an outside cafe and you put your feet up and sip on your espresso coffee and watch people go by. That's the way we live here. Now, what's another thing Italy is known for? Romance, relationships, love, the language of love. Because Italy's known for its passion, but Colombia is its Latin cousin. I mean, Colombia is all of that and more. Colombians wear their hearts on their sleeves. It's one of the things, and I talked about Ecuador versus Colombia, the differences. One of the things in Ecuador is people are very guarded. It's hard to know what they're thinking. And so what you see is this social front that they put on. And so you can run into somebody that doesn't like you. You can run into somebody that's angry, but they'll still have a smile on their face, and they'll still be polite. In Colombia, you run into somebody that doesn't like you, you're going to know it. They don't hide their emotions. Relationships here can be very intense, very emotional, and absolutely expressive. When people dance here, and dancing is a thing, they dance close. People here look you in the eye. There's a sense of connection it's hard to explain, but once you feel it, once you get used to it, you get it. There was a time it made me very uncomfortable. I couldn't stand to have somebody touch me. It's hard to run into somebody here that's not going to give you a hug and do the kiss on the cheek thing. And they don't necessarily actually kiss you on the cheek. It's more of an air kiss usually. But it took me some getting used to. I'll go over these comments when I finish up here. Then I mentioned the cost of living. I mean, it's a big thing that you can come to Colombia and live this kind of lifestyle for less. I mean, considerably less. You want a charming finca in the hills of Salento, or downtown apartment with all the amenities and a gatekeeper at the door? It's possible for a fraction of what you're going to pay in Europe, or even especially in the US. For $200, $300, $400, you can live in places like that. Now, there are some, maybe you have to throw $1,000 at it, out of my price range, but for some people it's not. But for that, you can get yourself a big hacienda sitting on a big piece of land with its own private swimming pool and jacuzzi. And, that's something you can't get in a lot of places for the kind of money. And then, of course, the lifestyle, the beauty, the food, the romance, without sucking your bank account dry. Now, I've met people, Americans, Canadians, even Europeans, that say they come here for a visit and never left. One guy told me I was saving for a dream trip to Italy. Then I came to Colombia and I realized I'm already living my dream and I can actually afford it here. It's not a fantasy, it's a choice, and more people are making it. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. And the only thing that I contemplated before doing today's topic was I don't want to be a tourist bureau. I don't want to be convincing somebody to come here. But just like I'll tell the bad things, it's hard for me not to tell the things that I love about the place, my opinions about the place. I just hope we never get crowded with newcomers here. Anyway, so let me throw this out. Tuscany or Salento? If you've been to both, tell me, and what would you choose? You throw it in the comments. If you've been to both, I really want to know what pulled you. You know, was it your heart? What pulled you in one direction or the other? So yeah, today we look at how Colombia, especially the coffee region, has the same magic people go to Europe for. It's not just the coffee, it's people, the lifestyle, the vibe. I've lived here, I've felt it, and honestly, it changes you. You don't need $1 million or a passport full of stamps to live well. Let me know in the comments, would you rather spend a year in Tuscany or Salento? Or if you've been to both, tell me which one won your heart. Now, next week, kind of piggybacking on this, the topic will be living in Colombia on $1,600 a month. $1,600. Why? Because that's what I get, $1,600. And so I haven't done it in a long time. I hate it, but I'm going to do somewhat of a price breakdown. And I would be happy if you're living in Colombia, if you want to email me off so I can maybe present a couple budgets other than just my own, I'd be happy to do that. All right, let's, sorry for starting to croak. And not croak like in die, but croak as in being a frog. All right. Maybe the woman was an event planner and was arranging a surprise birthday party for his wife. Well, it was his daughter. Those mountains look like the Dolomites. Well, I looked up the Alps, but aren't the Dolomites part of the Alps? I think. Steps up that hill to, oh yeah, I mentioned that. I just checked and Dolomites are part of the Alps, so we're both right. That's what I thought. You mentioned I didn't see it before. You mentioned Dolomite, and I always thought that was part of the Alps. It's that particular Italian section of it, but it's the Alps. So yeah, I didn't think I was crazy. When I was visiting Salento 2 years ago, there was a couple from Europe. Don't remember the exact country, maybe Italy. So people from Europe come to see Colombia. Ton of people. It's a popular place for some European countries. Italy is one of them. Spain, of course. A lot of people go from Colombia to Spain and back to Colombia. It's a two-way street. A lot of Colombians will go to France. Some French will come to Colombia. It's not as popular as Italy and Spain. Let's see. I've been to both, and both are uniquely awesome and beautiful. Can't compare them. I just did compare them. It's like to name which one of your kids are more lovable? Well, I could tell you. I mean, it's not something you want to say in front of them, but you know. All right. I'm sorry about my froggy voice. Last week, I told you I'm wondering, should I continue the channel or not continue? Having my camera and gear stolen certainly doesn't help the decision. I did get a number of emails. They were all positive. They were all to continue, and that will weigh greatly. There's two things: interest and finance. Those are the two things. You know, I have to get back to figuring out how the channel will pay for itself, because I just don't make enough money to subsidize it. I just can't really afford to do that. So I have to sort that out. But the other thing is, you know, how much interest. It's actually been returning since I switched to Rumble. It was falling off in YouTube. Now, of course, I attribute that to YouTube intentionally doing things to make that happen. It's what they do. And I'm gratified to see Rumble keeps growing. And people that have subscribed, where they'll actually pay a fee, they get some perks like no advertisements and things like that. But that, I didn't realize how much, but it greatly helps boosting the channel when you actually have a paid subscriber, not just a subscriber, but the $5 a month paid subscriber. It actually puts your channel in a different category, and the more that you have. So I didn't know that until I got a paid subscriber. I have 3 now, which is not very much, but it's already made a difference, and I'm already seeing it in some of the numbers. So imagine if half the people that watched, you know, actually did that. It would really boost the channel up. Then I would, you know, so I mean, that's always a plus. So at the bottom of the chat thing, there's a $sign. That's a place to tip. It's not my traditional, but it works. It functions. Nice thing about Rumble is they don't take all the money. They take very, very little of the money. So that's nice. You know, YouTube took, it was at least 40%. I think it was 40%, but then they had fees on top of that. And it ends up they got about half of what you would get. History, culture, food, wine, everything is so different, but amazing in its own way. Yeah, well, yeah. The specifics, like obviously the history in Italy, night and day to the history here in Colombia. Culture, a lot of similarities. A lot of similarities in the culture. Food, yeah, a lot of differences. Wine, a lot of differences. So I get that, the specific. But the attitude of the people, the root of the language, there's a lot of similarities. And the Tuscany area in particular is an area similar to the Coffee Triangle. You know, so you got rolling hills, you got sharp mountains, you know, you have a lot of the same scenery. As a matter of fact, some pictures you wouldn't necessarily know the difference. And it's not a coincidence about the colorful houses. That, you know, it's part of the culture, and what drives it in Italy is what drives it here. So I hear what you're saying. I could point up a world of differences because they're a world apart. But I think there's a lot of amazing similarities when you compare it to other countries where they have nothing in common. Anyway, you know, YouTube is pure evil. To me, yeah, I ran into, you know how Facebook kicks up a thing and says, 4 years ago, you posted this. Well, 4 years ago, I posted up the letter that YouTube sent me that was demonetizing my channel without a reason, had no reason. I'd never broken a single rule that they had, but they just demonetized my channel with no chance of ever recovering. And it specifically said, this channel or any other channel, we will never allow you to be monetized for no reason. Yeah, it's not cool. Especially at that point, I think I put in 7 years of effort into that channel. No, not 7. For 5 years. Yeah, 5 years of effort into that channel to build it and grow it. And it had been working until they shut me down. And so all the growth instantly stopped. They didn't just demonetize me, but they instantly stopped the growth by altering how my videos were seen, like they weren't seen. Even people that were subscribed wouldn't get notices. Even if they clicked the bell for notices, I kind of disappeared from a lot of people. Yeah, they suck. They're evil. Colombians love pizza. Why avoid ordering this in Tuscany? Yeah, well, yeah. There's definitely some differences. Colombia pizza absolutely sucks. It's all about the cheese. In Italy, it's all about the crust and the sauce. So yeah, I mean, of course, there's going to be differences. I'm just talking about there's some similarities, and the similarities are things like I'm not here for the pizza. And I wouldn't be in Italy for the pizza. I'm here for the stress-free life. I'm here for, friendly people. I'm here for, you can, there's a certain level of freedom that comes with a place like this. Those things are similar. One difference, Tuscany grows wine while Colombia grows coffee. Right. But Colombia loves wine, and in Tuscany, they're big on coffee. So there's some crossover there. I go to New York for the pizza. Yeah, see, I'm not a fan of New York, what is called New York pizza. The New York City type pizza, not a fan. I like upstate New York pizza. It's different. It's actually more similar to Italian pizza than it is to most pizzas in the U.S. But there's a reason for that. Upstate New York, the number one ethnic group for a century were Italians. We part of our staple food is lemon ice, for example. That's an Italian thing. There's a lot of things that are ragu, Bertinelli pasta. There's all kinds of Americanized Italian food industry in upstate New York, in Rochester, as a matter of fact. It's not a coincidence, I don't think those things are very good, but it's because of those roots. The pizza in upstate New York, they actually call it buffalo dough, even though it originated in Rochester. Buffalo always gets the same with the chicken wings. They actually originated in Rochester. But the buffalo dough it's light, fluffy, and airy. And so the outside edge of it will puff up, where New York pizza, it's almost a flat. It can get airy. If you go to a good place, it'll be somewhat airy, but it's a different type of dough. It's very thin. They fold it because it's almost soggy. Where upstate New York, there's a little bit more dough on the bottom, but it's always like a toasted bottom. So there's a bit of a crunch to it, but there's enough dough to kind of soak up so it's not soggy. And then the outside of the crust is very, it's just full of air holes. It's very light dough. One of my issues with New York pizza is a lot of the places don't ferment their dough. They make the dough and they just make the pizza. And the problem with that is you don't digest it very well. And so you can eat a piece of New York pizza and it just kind of hangs heavy, and it's not good. You can get a lump in your stomach, and that's why you need to ferment the dough at least overnight. And the good pizza places in upstate New York, that's what they always do. So they're very particular on the sauce. They're very particular on the dough. It's very much in the style of Italy. They'll make them big. Let's see. I've traveled to both countries. Honestly, it's not even close. I know the diversity in Colombia is on another level. Yes. It's insane how much variety you find in people, landscape, culture, and even food. Yes, but I'm not talking about everything. Renee, here we go. They both have body language. Yes, there's a lot of cultural similarities, and that's what I'm referring to. There's a lot of expression here in Colombia, and Italians are famous for it. Let's see. Hi, Lauren. Belgian and living in Salento for 10 years now. I never used to meet fellow countrymen. That has changed over the last 2 or 3 years. I meet or hear from them almost every day now. Yeah, it's sadly, I hate the idea that I may have contributed to this, but I was throttled so much by YouTube. I comfort myself by saying no. It's nice on one hand. It depends on the type of person that's coming. Problem in Ecuador is you had a whole bunch of people that are, I would say, reasonably well off and in love with socialism. And they went to Ecuador thinking they were going to a socialist country because Korea was trying to turn it into one. And of course, now they're very upset because they have a conservative president. And so they're all upset. And they're all about politics. And life is just, half of the people there are just miserable people. And it's just very uncomfortable, and you just wish they weren't there. Here in Colombia, you have people that are on the right and left. Turtle, he's a lefty most of his life. We get along great because he's not an asshole like the people there are. They're the ones with the nose rings and the blue hair, and all they can talk about is how they hate Trump. And if you don't agree with everything they say, then you're automatically a Trump lover. And that's the only conversation they have. And that's what it was like way back when I was there. It wasn't any different. It's exhausting. It's like, I can sit down and have a conversation with somebody about politics without going crazy. They can't. So, but people here, for the most part, I don't really run into those kind of people. And doing what I do, helping people, they're here to tourists and showing them around and doing the videos and having interactions. And I was doing a coffee meet. So I meet a lot of people that are coming here to visit, and I don't meet that kind of a person. So thank God. So that's a plus. If they're just nice people just trying to live their life, and they're not trying to convince you of one thing or the other, to be a Trumper or to hate a Trump. I don't need that crap. I'm an adult. I can make up my own mind, and I could give a crap what you really think about it. Anyway, I agree. Oh, and thin crust is the best. Well, don't misunderstand. Upstate New York, you have your choice of it being a thin crust or a thicker crust. You have the option. In New York, you don't really get that option. Or it's not very common, let's put it that way. Everybody's trying to be the famous New York style pizza. And there are a couple there that I've had that were quite tasty because they put time in the dough to do it right, and they put time in the sauce to do it right. And so the basic of the pizza tasted good. But a lot of places in New York are kind of like here in Colombia. It's just it's a serving platter for cheese or whatever topping you might like, and I'm not into that. Fermenting the dough is key, absolutely. Bonjour. Little conversation there. It's okay to have different political viewpoints. It's the ultra partisanship that causes problems. Absolutely. Absolutely. Local cheese isn't the best for pizza, though. Well, no, and I don't think that makes a crappy pizza. If you're ignoring the dough and you're ignoring the sauce, you're never going to have a good pizza, whether you have good cheese or not. I completely agree that the cheese they use is the cheapest. It's all about budget. It's all about, selling a pizza cheap enough so that people will buy it. That doesn't make a good pizza. On the other hand, there's no excuse to not make a good dough. There's no excuse not to make a good sauce, because that comes into technique, not into expense. But it's what they do here. Is Velveeta good for pizza? Only if it's Hawaiian. You can put whatever you want on it. Put dumpster pizza. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Hawaiian either. But just like politics, you want to eat Hawaiian, go for it. But it's not for me. Is Velveeta good for pizza? I had a God, I don't remember where, but I remember the pizza. I had a piece of hamburger pizza, and it had ground burger. It had sauteed onions and peppers, and it had, I'm assuming it was like a cheese sauce or Velveeta cheese. It wasn't bad, but the cheese, the ratio was off. If it had like a cheddar, even if they use the American cheese or Velveeta, and it just wasn't that much, it probably would have been tasty. But the thing is, I don't like cheeseburgers. I like hamburgers. So, I'm a very basic kind of person. White sauce with pineapple should be punished with a year in jail. Yeah, I'm not big into white pizzas very much, unless it's your basic garlic pizza. White sauce, garlic, olive oil. Yeah, I like that. But then I like pasta with just olive oil and garlic. Nothing else. I like the salty options in bakeries here. I don't know about that. It's okay to have different political views if at the end you admit I'm correct. Trump 2028. Well, I saw something the other day. Yesterday on YouTube that about put me in shock. It was a clip from CNN, and there were three people talking. And I don't watch CNN very often, but sometimes they have a funny take or just a weird take. You see clips. So I'll see clips from MSNBC or Fox or NBC or whatever. You see clips. And what caught my eye was CNN. It's like CNN had to choke on their words or something along those lines. And it was about a 5-minute clip. And it was these three talking heads that painfully were admitting that the successes, particularly in the last couple of weeks, are almost becoming overwhelming. And they talked about zero crossings at the border. They talked about the bombing. They talk about the Pakistan nominating Trump for the peace thing, for ending the Pakistan-India before it really got going. Talked about the Congo-Rwanda war that's been going on for 30 years. It just signed a peace treaty in the Oval Office because Trump had talked to them. I'm not going to list it all here, but for 5 minutes, they were listing these things. And I was in shock that CNN, they don't do that. They don't ever talk about those things. But for whatever reason, they were talking about it, and it was killing them. There was one guy in particular, he looked like he was constipated. He was in pain. But I guess pigs fly. How about the armpit rolled buñuelos? I love buñuelos. Love them. Italians only drink their cappuccino till about 11 a.m. It's a breakfast beverage. I don't know what it's like in Colombia. In Colombia, if you walk by these outdoor cafes and things like that, the tradition here is coffee is an afternoon drink, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it would be like a double espresso. And they'll sit around and they'll chat and they'll sip on their espresso. Cappuccinos are more of a more recent phenomenon, mixing something other than just coffee. So it was espresso. Now you see cappuccinos. I don't know that there's any rules. There's a lot of cafes that don't open until after 12 because of the tradition. But a lot of cafes are now opening at 9 a.m., which is something relatively new. So that's a difference in how coffee is done. Italy was at the forefront of all the different types of coffee drinks. Colombia's there now, but they kind of went at it kicking and screaming. Older people, just give me an espresso. No sugar, no milk, just give me an espresso. That's coffee here. I like pizza with Alfredo sauce and pepperoni and black olives. I'm weird. I could eat it. It wouldn't be my go-to. Pepperoni and black olives even makes Domino's taste good. Domino's is not bad here. They changed. The Domino's here is not the Domino's that I would have in the United States. The Domino here is pretty good. Particularly their dough is very light dough. Okay. We ran the hour talking about pizzas. How'd we get there? All right. So I'm up for any comments, anything that you have to say. Shoot me off an email. I am going through this decision mode, and so I'm still asking for any input that you have. I would appreciate it. A lot of people turned up today. Thank you very much for that. Again, next week, painfully, it'll be cost of living. And if you're living in Colombia, I am soliciting a couple budgets. If you have them, you don't have to go crazy. You can put some, just some major things down, round it off. You don't have to be, you're not going to get graded on it. But it would be nice if I had a couple to throw out there. And so we're going to end it here. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. Some of you have been with me for all 9 years, which is pretty amazing. And where is it? Here we go. We'll probably visit Salento in September. I've been there so many times, it's ridiculous. All right. See you next week. Ciao.